studying the ocean. He's credited with discovering 10 years ago what has become known as the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, the oceanic dump of the Pacific Rim.
Glass bottle with barnacles.
The garbage patch is created by the Pacific currents, carrying refuse from North America, Asia, and the islands, then concentrating it into a continent-sized swirl of flotsam, estimated to contain 3.5 million tons of junk, 80% of it plastic. Moore has focused his study on an area twice the size of Texas, about 1,000 miles from North America. Sailing his research catamaran Algeta, Moore and a small crew drag a trawling device through the garbage patch to study the content of ocean water. And what they find, he describes as a plastic soup, more plastic in some waters than plankton, the basic food organism of the ocean.
It has a few insects in it, like halibates. It has some zooplankton, but overwhelmingly what we're seeing here are plastic particles. The ocean has become a plastic soup. This is the soup.
The problem with plastic in particular is that it doesn't quite float and doesn't sink either. Sunlight and salt water slowly break it down until bags become shreds and hard objects break down to multicolored chips.
This is the new beach sand that we're seeing throughout the Pacific Islands. It's a sand made of plastic.
And is there any real sand mixed in here? I see a little bit, yeah.
There's a tiny bit of volcanic origin sand and coral. Formerly, we got sand by breaking down rock and coral. Now we're getting sand by breaking down plastic. You're going to want to come to port. Starboard engine reverse.
Some of it comes from ships.
Got it.
Fishing floats, a styrofoam buoy. But the vast majority of plastic garbage in the ocean comes from land. Bottles and cups dropped in the street, washed by rain into the storm sewer, into the rivers, and eventually the ocean.
The ocean's downhill from everywhere. Things blow and drift into the ocean. They degrade into these particles and then become part of the ocean's load. And the consequences of this are currently unknown.
They do know some obvious consequences. This is a jellyfish fouled and caught in rope. Birds and sea life take the plastic for food.
Here I'm seeing something that appears to be a jellyfish. If I was a turtle, I would think that's probably a jellyfish.
But that's a plastic bag.
But it's a balloon, maybe.
Albatross chicks have been killed by a diet of plastic bits. And there's the question of what happens when the plastic breaks down even further.
The bigger chips turn to smaller chips, and we eventually get dust. Our concern is that this dust then goes to the molecular level and invades the entire food web in the ocean.
On a recent cruise inside Long Beach Harbor, Moore and his crew used simple fishing nets to dredge up plastic waste headed out into the Pacific.
Jerky, plenty of jerky bags. And power bars, looks like a power bar. Yep, there's a granola bar. And the Ziploc baggies won't stop. Look at these Ziploc baggies, one after the other.
Moore says the level of ocean trash is only increasing, a reflection of ever more disposable packaging. He tracks the trends not at the store, but in the ocean.
The metallized chip bags, you know, it's much easier to keep freshness in potato chips if you put a thin coating of metal on the inside of the bag. As soon as that started happening, we started finding these metallized chip bags out in the ocean.
The Algeta returned from its most recent voyage with its rigging strung with found objects. Moore just hates to leave the junk floating out there.
This is stuff that was collected by Captain Moore and the crew.
He turns his findings over to the Sea Lab in Redondo Beach, which analyzes the content and concentration of plastic in the water.
No matter whether you're studying the surface, 10 meters, 30-meter samples, or 100-meter samples, every sample that we've looked at in the Pacific Ocean has had plastic in it.
It's all suspended through the depth of the water.
Correct.
They even find what are called nurdles, pellets of unmanufactured plastic.
Another pre-production plastic pellet.
Spilled on factory lots and railway sidings, washed to the ocean.
The levels are increasing. The amount of packaging is increasing. The throwaway concept of living is proliferating, and it's showing up in the ocean.
He offers no hope of cleaning it up. Straining the ocean for plastic would be beyond the budget of any country, and it might kill untold amounts of sea life in the process. The solution, Moore says, is to stop the plastic at its source. Stop it on land before it falls into the ocean.
There's your typical t-shirt shopping bag.
And in a plastic-wrapped and packaged world, he doesn't hold out much hope for that either. This is Brian Rooney for Nightline in Long Beach, California.
Time to clean up our act. Thanks to Brian Rooney for that. And when we come back,